Hola. The problem in my research is the lameness in South. That is the problem. Locomotors in the locomotor system are common in pregnant girls, and its occurrence can cause pain and stress, which compromise the welfare of the South. In two studies, one in Europe and United States in 2012. The prevalence ranged in 1 and 34%. And in other study in 2014, range the prevalence was 65%. And that study uh, uh, done in 5 states here in Brazil. Well, the lameness in South, it's a multifactorial condition. The main factors are nutritional factors, floor abrasiveness, social instability, and among other factors, but that is the main factors. When the sow is with dampness, that is a stressful condition, and she secretes glycocorticoids, and that glycocorticoids can cross the placental barrier, affecting brain structures, structures that modulate affective states and social behavior of the offspring. We work with 22 guilds and were assessed the gate score of pregnant group house guild 6 times with intervals of 2 weeks between evaluation. The score the scores from 0 to 5, and according to a previously validated scoring system. A score of 0 is when the guild is without lameness, and a score of 5 represent guilds with the highest lameness score. At 107 days of pregnancy, the gifts were transferred to individual farrowing pens. 28 days of age, the piglets were weaned, weight, weight, and distributed in uniform body size groups. And laser. Yeah. That photos. It's from the lesions, skin lesions, resulting from fights were counted in each group on days 28, 29, and 30. Photos from the body of piglet, the ear piglet. 2 days after weaning, vocalization and activity levels were evaluated in each group using an open field and novel object test. That is a sketch um, of the place where was done the test. Statistical analysis. Piglets were grouped according to the degree of loudness of their mother. 3 groups. A, B, and C. The group A is when the female degree of loudness of that female was 0 or 1. Um, the group B, the female degree of loudness is 2 or 3, and C, when the degree of loudness were 4 or 5. Uh, Data analysis was performed depending on the normality of the variables through an ANOVA or Kruskal-Wallis test at a significance level of 5%. All analyses were performed in the programming language R. That was an interesting results. For results from the content skin lesion at day 28 and 28 and 29. And the group A, piglets from the group A, had fewer lesion at the than group B group piglets in both both days. Um, Here is the weight of the piglets, and the piglets were the from the group B were the heaviest, and group C piglets were the lightest. And it's important to clarify the litter size was not significantly different between groups. Uh, to me, that result is uh, I don't understand. To me, it's strange. It's vocalization in novel object test, and in the group A of piglets, they vocalized more than group B piglets in the novel object test. Um, After that, we analyzed the placenta of, of that gill to assess cortisol and cortisone, and uh, the levels was without significant difference between groups. Okay, the aim of this data analysis was to effects of lameness during gestation in sows and its consequences of the behavior of the offspring. We conclude that lameness in pregnant gills have negative effects on the offspring, affecting weight gain, increasing aggressiveness, and altering vocalization. The difference in weight gain deserves further studies, and these preliminary results open the door for specific studies in the area. And thanks for your attention. Have a question? Thank you. What? Yeah, undergrad. I'm learn so much with. Yeah, a novel object test. Just vocalization was significant difference. I don't understand what. Number of cross lines. Not just in vocalization, individually. Yes. We have still. Try to escape. Try to jump or come back to the door, for example. Okay. Yeah. You can. 5 minutes. Just in the novel object desk. In the open field have different. Was close. The value P. Mhm. I'm search, but don't I don't find any any difference. And we have a value. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So hello everyone. I just prepared a few slides about my PhD project. So the title is the welfare and epigenetic wars. And also now we have some experiment guys that work a lot with this one. So just to summarize, stress in males may cause epigenetic change in the semen. I found a lot of research that says it's in but just in mice and just lab animals. I couldn't find anything about wars. Uh, and also, we have just few studies related to stress and welfare in sports. I look at really hard in the literature, and I found just two papers. And it's not specifically of welfare. I found one about some the impact of the temperature in the semen quality. For example, about animal welfare, I couldn't find any paper. Also, some inherited that the epigenetic variation may be responsible for change in the behavior, the metabolism, and neurobiology of the offspring. Uh, I bring a few examples. I'll talk a little bit more about it. So, this research, to be honest, it's a review uh, the modulation of vulnerability of the offspring stress. Uh, they did a review and they found that some research they change the diet. They have a model, they stress model. Oh, where is it? Stress model. Oh, they have this kind of model. This paper, they work with mice, and they have this kind of model. They extract the males, they restrain them, they expose them for 10 minutes of light directly, and then they found some difference in the population of microRNAs in the semen. And then they isolated 8 of them, and after that, uh, these stressed males, they had different offspring. Also, the metabolism and the behavior of the offspring of these stressed males were different. And then they found these 8 microRNAs differently in the semen, and then isolated these 8 microRNAs, and then they insert in an egg and found that the same difference in the offspring of these males, these stressed model males. And then also, some few years ago, they think that all the epigenetic marks are erased during the uh, the fecundation, not fecundation, is it? During the how can I say fecundação? Yeah, the gamete formation. When they have epigenetic change in the egg and in the sperm, they could erase it during when how can I say it in English? Fecundação. Quando eles fecundam. Fecundation. With the fecundation. Fertilization. Yeah. Thank you. I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know why, but so during the fertilization, they thought that all the epigenetic marks were erased, but now we know that also in pigs, it has been shown that the paternal DNA methylation is preserved after fertilization. So this epigenetic change, I bring few examples, like what we can found in epigenetic change. We have alteration of these microRNAs. We know 382. We have DNA methylation. It's a kind of when you turn on or turn off specific genes. And also have stone acetylations that is related with the perfect 3D conformation of the DNA. Also the remodeling of chromatin and alteration on the epigymosomes. Epigymosomes are a kind of vesicles present in the semen, and these have some proteins that's really important to the integrity of the acrosome barrier. But we do not have too much research about epigymosomes. At the same review that I present from Nestle, they say about this kind of structure in the semen, but they believe that this kind of vesicles they found, not found, uh, they they break, and then they have this kind of proteins, and then interact with the cell of the sperm cell to make it able to fertilize. So, what's the aim of the project? The aim of the project is to evaluate the effect of change in the male environment on the epigenetic, epigenome, and semen and embryo quality. So we do not have a lot of research about animal welfare in boars, And we thought that in Brazil, we kept them usually in gestation crates or in small pens with no enrichment, environmental enrichment. So we are thinking about how they how can impact this kind of stress and in the welfare of the boar, also in the semen quality and some epigenetic changes. So how we will evaluate it? So we have different challenges to the animals. LPS challenge. LPS it's the barrier of the gram-negative bacteria, and we will inject them and just see the fever reaction and see if it have some impact on the semen quality and the welfare of the boar. We will house them in crates, and I just put an interrogative dot here because we are wondering about the ideal housing, but we don't know how it's the ideal housing. If we will house them like in groups, small groups of 5, or if you give them just special pens that they can sniff, they can interact with another boars, or we will keep them like free range with pasture access. So we are wondering which kind of is the ideal housing from boars, because usually in nature they sometimes they are maternal groups, so and the males are just crossing and usually sometimes they live alone. So also the alterations in the morphology of the epigymosomes that the vesicles that I spoke a little bit. Well, we will do the seminal evaluation, the genomic seminal evaluation, and also the evaluation of preputial and seminal microbiota. In the morphology of the desmosomes is just show different patterns of this kind of vesicles, and also see how if they can uh, break and found together with the sperm cell, and if we have some difference of this profile of microRNAs, and if there's a fusion of the vesicles with the spermatozoid cell, sperm cell. And the seminal evaluation is just the normal evaluation, like motility, sperm cell morphology, concentration, volume, and also some abnormalities. And in the genomic seminal, the microRNA population, the DNA methylation, and also the stone acetylation. And the evaluation of preputial seminal microbiota, and this kind of change in population of microorganisms. In this area, it's really interesting because we found a lot of research about the importance of these different microorganisms and microbiota in the brain. And in few papers, you can find that the intestinal microbiome is the second brain. So have a really big impact on the behavioral and on the physiology of the animals and also human beings. The hypothesis is that the boars produce better quality semen with different epigenetic profiles in gametes. I put different. It's really general because probably they will be different, but that we usually we don't know which kind of epigenetic profile is the better one. So that's the reason that I put different, because we need to study a lot of in this field to see which one is the better. So and the first point is that this kind of difference in the epigenetic profile probably is responsible for this kind of change that that paper that I told you that they have a stress model. So in that paper they said that probably the difference that they found is because of this different and the population of microRNA. And that's it. Yes, I don't. Yeah, I'm in my first year of PhD. Yes, we have a company in the south of Brazil that's really keen in collaborating with us. Yeah, and also they have some specifically breed for Boartain, so they have the kind of. Yeah, also, I thought in also look for about nutrition. They have a lot of nutrition that in different diets for the males, and then you can find difference in the epigenetic and the semen. I do not have any presentation, but yeah, during my master, I worked also with Patricia, and we fed the goats, gestation goats, pregnant goats, with two different diets. One diet is high fiber diet, and the other group a normal diet, control one. And that we found because hunger for pregnant sows and also dry sows, it's a huge field of research, and they have a lot of research about it in the past, I don't know, 20, 30 years. But no one, none research that I, I don't find, I didn't find, it's about the impact of the high fiber diets from the offspring. Just from the sow, oh, the sow, they decrease the stereotypical behavior, they increase the weight of the piglet, but no one about the welfare of the piglets. And what we found is that the behavior of the sow, it's a little bit different, not that the big difference because the quality of the source of the fiber is really good. We used soybean hulls. But the most interesting result, in my opinion, is because the piglets, they had fewer skin lesions in the before prior weaning, and that's the results that Marisol showed the pictures. So yeah, no, we didn't. Yeah, yeah, we but yeah, but both groups they ferry in a pen, not in a crate, and also we standardize all the pen from the same from the both groups, and also the same diet, the same everything for everyone. Yeah. Yes,
I don't know if too much for your research, but I think so will be interesting assess the emotional state of the birds. Yeah, because don't doesn't have any information for just behavior, not.
I will present some outcomes about my PhD project. And I just finished my presentation because we were collecting samples and you'll see some mistakes in English. Yeah. And I'm doing some cortisol analysis almost at the same time. But I have some graphics in Portuguese, I'm sorry, but I was translating and yeah. Okay, so in the first step of my project, it was about effects of environmental enrichment during prenatal period in the offspring. So we do the environmental enrichment in the mom, the mother, and look for the outcomes in the offspring. My friends saw this hypothesis and this context, but we study this period because the prenatal period is a kind of modulator phenotype during gestation and can prepare the individuals, can do some cues for the offspring during gestation, and it's a really adaptive mechanism, but in the production we can do some alterations in the negative way. So these alterations can be emotional reactivity, responsiveness to stressors, and can change the cognition and memory when we alter the limbic system. And I don't know, it's really small, but these effects in the early life can do long-term changes and can pass in the another generations. This stress during gestation can do some effects in physiological and behavioral mechanisms in the offspring. And these challenges in the mother can pass in the placenta by glucocorticoids form and affect the brain, and then do these alterations. The placenta is a main programmer. We have an enzyme in the placenta, in another tissues in the body. In the placenta, we study this enzyme. I don't know how I say in English, but it's 11 beta hydroxysteroid deshydrogenase. And we have a lot of kind of stressors in the production for cells during gestation. And in the most positive way, we will change the system to this, for this. Yeah, in Brazil, yeah. For this. So in the most positive way, in perspective, we will maintain the cells in this system. And for us, this is not welfare. We have a lot of challenges in this system. And we will have a lot of stressors for a long time for this month. And my project is basically the maternal stress can liberar. Help me, please. Release. Thank you. Glucocorticoids in the system of the mom, and these glucocorticoids can, in the gestation, can pass the placenta and affect the offspring. And we have a lot of receptors for glucocorticoids in the hippocampus and amygdala. And these effects can alter emotionality. And we have this enzyme trying to control these effects in the offspring. So my hypothesis is the environmental enrichment impact the offspring and change the phenotype. By phenotype changes. And I had 2 experiments. The first one with Master, with Thiago, and I will present just the second experiment. So we had 2 treatments, one with straw during the end of the gestation, and another without, conventional one. And we did in 3 weeks, just for the number of animals. And we did some samples, we collected samples saliva samples and behavior in this design. So we have some basal collected for just control. We have some outlier and therefore we have this. And we did these collectors. And in the office spring, we did a lot of tests. Emotionality is just one of them. And we have some behavioral samples and saliva samples. And we have the placenta with cordão umbilical. Okay. Umbilical cord. And we have, I don't know, but we have a lot of data at present. So we did the emotionality test, a combination of open field and novel objective test, like this, 5 minutes in each one. And we objective here and more 5 minutes. Like this. This is our experiment. And in the mom, we saw a lot of changes, difference, the behavior, but I will present just some of them. Sham showing is the stereotypic behavior, and we saw some differences in the treatment and control. And interacting with the floor, it's a kind of stereotypic behavior, but we were not sure because maybe we have some tools in the floor and we are not assessing. So. And we have a lot of differences, but doesn't make too much sense, like vocalization today, each treatment vocalize more, but this is the more impacting results in this part of the project. And in the and it did some statistical analysis in the treatment and enrichment or non-enrichment, and we don't have any difference. So I took the control treatment and share in the most high stereotypic behavior and lowest stereotypic behavior, and then we have some difference, like this one. The latency, the offspring on the mothers that non-express stereotypic behavior has more latency for access the open field test. And another difference is in activity, that the mothers that express the offspring has more. It's clear? Are you following me? No? It's clear? Okay. This is the most important result so far. And here, but we don't have it. Here is placenta, and we did some analysis in the corticoids, cortisona and cortisol. So we don't have any difference in the placenta when we are looking for the environmental enrichment. But when we share with stereotypic behavior, we have more cortisol in the mothers that express more time stereotypic behavior. So it's in line with another data about emotionality test. And I finished, Professor, the videos about piglets. Yeah, this is the results. And aggressive behavior, we don't have difference, but we had some problem with the videos. I can explain you tomorrow, but but we have 6 days of analysis, and in the morning at 6 and at 7 a.m. 5 minutes in each hour. We don't have difference in this behavior, and I didn't see the analysis the stereotypic behavior share so far because I am doing a lot of things in this week, but in this treatment we don't have difference, But this is nosing. We have some difference. And we have in the, I think that it's random days, because it doesn't make sense. But we have more nosing in the enriched offspring. Here is a ABC. O sangue. Ah, o indivíduo do lado. No, just nosing. Because it's in a lot of parts of body. Sometimes it's in the head, there, so I put together. No, no, because yeah, after me, sorry. Yeah, but I will share again behavior of spring. I think that we will have more interesting results. And then I saw interesting behavior that they attempt to play in the pen, but can't because it's really small and density is high. Yeah, so we don't have any difference, and the number is really small. So about this behavior, and another one. And aggressive behavior, I did some Pi quadrado. I don't know how to say it. Ah, okay. Because I was thinking about the proportional individuals and not just the media of duration of the behavior. So the numbers of piglets that do this behavior. So, but I just started because I didn't know to do this. So Mari was helping. I will finish it, this part. But in aggressive behavior, we don't have any difference in proportion. And I have next steps in Sweden. I will do some epigenetic analysis in the hippocampus, amygdala, and the cortex, and placenta. And I am finishing some results about the saliva, purchase in the saliva, in the females in the offspring. So I will complete my data. And I'm doing this in this week because we had some problems in the lab. I'm doing this, and we have some experiments. Yeah, and doing this.
Sorry, guys, I'm not really prepared about it. Well, my name is Luana. I'm biologist. I'm doing my master here with Professor Eduardo, and my project is about uh, the vaginal microbiota from builds kept in three different systems of housing in the before copula. So I'm doing my experiments right now. I'm collating data about these builds. Yes, exactly. And we are keeping them in free housing, in pens, and in crates. So we will hope to see some difference between the microbiota of them. And we are doing too the collecting data about the behavior and saliva cortisol. What else? We will challenge them with LPS too, see if there's some difference with the microbiota and the behavior too. And we hope to find maybe uh, see what kind of the housing is better. It's a it's a new thing. Yeah, it is. It is because it's the first contact from offspring. Yeah, first population of offspring. Yeah, we will collect the ovaries too. Maybe do some genetics work with them. Great. Thank you. Oh,
Hello. Um, the project I'm going to present today is mostly the last project I did in pigs. I've worked with pigs since '94, so I have huge amount of studies on pigs. So, but I chose to use now present the latest project that I have. Um, It's quite a big project. It's focusing on piglet survival and maternal traits. We also have some studies on nest building behavior, and I have one PhD. She's working on nest building behavior. And I have a postdoc that has been doing epidemiological studies in commercial herds. We visited 52 herds in Norway, divided on 3 different regions. And we have data on around 900 sows with all scorings and behavioral data and physical data. And she's still, Ellen Rosvold is the PhD. Marco Osebek is also my PhD. He's recently finished. He defended his thesis. So a lot of what I'm going to present today is from his work. And Camilla has been a postdoc from the School of Veterinary Science, assigned to focus on the causes of mortality. Because I've worked a lot on piglet survival and causes of mortality since more than 10 years ago. So we were interested in seeing if the results have changed after this, because we have the selection program focuses a lot on litter size, and we do have a lot of negative effects of litter size. I'm coming back to that. I think we can just start. From Camilla's work, we actually visited 52 herds altogether. And from out of those 52 herds, we did more in-depth studies of 14 of these herds. So the VI, the Veterinary Institute, they did post-mortem on all the dead piglets from 14 litters. It was 378 sows. LY is the crossbred sows that are used in the commercial herds. And we did post-mortem on 1,200 dead piglets to ascertain the cause of death. This is how it looked like at the Veterinary Institute. Doesn't look very nice, but sometimes we just have to go in depth of things because we wanted to see if things have changed during the last 10 years out in the commercial herd. The average mortality in Norway is 14.7 now, I think. It's around 15%. We only have loose-house herds, loose-house sows. They are loose-housed in the pregnancy. They are loose-housed during farrowing. But it's a big variation. The variation in mortality in herds is between 5 to 20. I will come back to what is the most important factors on that. So it's possible to do really well in loose housing, I would say. And yeah, we don't discuss to go back to crates again. I told that I work very closely with the pig organization and the pig farms, and I said, if you mention that you want to go back to crates, forget about me and pig work. I won't work with crates. Because I think many countries in Europe now, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, have shown that you can achieve just as good results in the loose housing system that works today. It's not so easy for group housing systems because the variation in mortality is too big. So it's easier for an average farmer to succeed with individual housing. This is the result we got. We also asked the farmer to give us the cause of death of the piglets, what he put in his, because the Norwegian farmers, they will always put notes about mortality and the cause of mortality, what they think the piglets died of. So we compared a little bit. Drama is crushing. You see here, it's what the farmer thought was crushed is really crushed. It's maybe not so strange because most of the farmers would attend the farrowings, or many farmers are present during farrowing. because we have batch farrowing, which means that many sows farrow during 1 week. Makes it more efficient for the farmer. Stillborn, it's a bigger difference, not so surprising. Starvation is also a bigger difference because most people would probably say that, oh, they are crushed. And not so many die of infection. We have very little anemic piglets, and malformations are very rare. This is the ones that died for no certain reason, just weak from birth. They don't know any, they haven't ascertained the death of these ones. Yeah, this is also unsure, but they put them in a group, died of themselves group. Without, I don't know why. Yeah, here is 12 out of 43 sows per batch. Number of total born piglets is 15.2, so it's quite high litter sizes. This is the average, remember that, so it means that we have litters of 20 and more than 20. It's crazy. Liveborn 14 is also quite high. So this is again what was the result after the pathologists have looked at the piglets. Stillborn is quite high. The reason, if you look at the different causes, and I think we have more stillborn when we have large litters, because the birth process takes longer time. So it is the most important cause of death in Norway is crushing and stillborn. The lowest risk for mortality and trauma, crushing, if the farm has the following characteristics. We found on the field survey or the huge farm study that it was a benefit to have more sows per batch because they are more systematic. Farmers become more systematic when they have more sows per batch. Yeah, more sows is better. The ones that succeed, they use straw or peat as nest building material. I will get back to peat. It's not really a good source of nest building, but the ones who use a sufficient amount of straw usually have lower mortality. And also we found a positive effect for the ones who have larger than 6.9 square meter pen, larger than 7 or at least 7 square meter. Norway are around 7 or 7.5. But we also have farms that have pens that are 9 square meters. We'll come back to the size of the pen later, but also Roland Weber from Switzerland, he says that in his study of 900 herds, actually, both he compared crated sows with the sows in the loose housing pen. He didn't get any better results in the crated sows in that study. It was published in 2009, I think, in Livestock Science. But what he got was that in total mortality didn't differ, but the percentage of crushed piglets were higher in the pen system than in the crates. But then again, other causes like diseases and starvation was higher in crates. And I think that has to do with the pen is better for sow communication, so it helps the nursing and these things. We also looked at what the farmers did, management factors. And this veterinarian, she looked at risk factors, of course. We found the following routines to be positive with respect to piglet survival: drying and massaging piglets that were weak and wet after the birth process. Not do that as a regular routine, but look at the need first. That's what I tell the farmer when I give advice, that you don't disturb the mother if things are going well, but if piglets are spread around and they are stuck on the static door and get really cold, then you should do something. That's also why get a very positive effect when the farmer is present during farrowing, because then they start doing these things that have a positive effect. You also got the positive effect of the scoring for the maternal behavior in the individual sows. I will get back to that later. And we get low parity sows have the lowest mortality irrespective of size. It's always the case. The PhD student, Ellen Rosvold, she published a paper. We published a paper in Livestock Science where we categorized the effort made by the farmer regarding management. I will tell you what this is. M1 was no extra routines around the time of farrowing. Just let the sows do everything themselves. They did some other work on the farm, just didn't care. You see how the mortality is, 18.6. The next group, M2, did, they said they had contact with the sow more than 2 times a day. The third category was split suckling, being present 80 to 100% of the farrowings, massaging, drying piglets that were in need, and these things. And the last one was, oh, sorry. The last one was with all the routines plus contact with the sow more. So it declined for all these groups. It declined from 18.6 to 13.6. It's not a very, very low mortality, but for loose sow is quite okay. It's below the country average at least. Yeah. Yeah. This is farms. This is farm. Yeah. Yeah. It's very unbalanced. Yeah. Yeah. It is. You can look at the paper. It's published now. So, but we have only 52 farms, and it's not such a big sample actually. If you have several hundred farms, but the thing here is that we actually went in and did all these measurements on individual sows in the end, and I will get to that. It was the most important part, but we also wanted to see on management factors and a little bit on the physical environment. Since we were there already, I wanted to score these things as well. So I'm back to Marco's work. He has looked at, since Guru and me some years ago, she used to be my PhD student. Now we're working in a farm animal organization, working with poultry. We found by coincidence in some of her PhD work, we were out in the farm observing, and we realized that, my God, these piglets, they don't access the teats. It's the mother is presenting the teeth, but a lot of the lower teeth row is hidden towards the floor, and the upper teeth row is so high, so they search in between. So we started wondering how many of these teeth were actually available to the piglets when they needed it during the colostrum period. And the result we got there was that actually 40% of the teeth were not available in that study, but it was with a very small sample. So that's why I wanted to look at this now, because I think it's a side effect of the selection that we have changed the other characteristics of the sow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so we really did very detailed studies here. Looked at teeth per distance, we looked at teeth diameter and teeth length on all the sows. This is very small study. It's 12 sows Islandrace, between Duroc, 14 sows, and 12 sows with cross hybrid sows. So it's a very small experiment, but the thought was to do the experimental work first and then to put it out in the commercial herds afterwards. And the main topic, the main ultimate aim is, of course, to find traits for the breeding company to be able to implement in the breeding. So what we did here was we did a lot of measurements. We looked at the teeth per distance, TPD, all the sows, we looked at teeth length, we looked at teeth diameter, and we measured it 3 times during the lactation period. So what we found was that teeth per distance really is important for piglet survival, especially in the posterior teeth and the middle position teeth. In these areas, teeth per distance means a lot. Not here. Didn't have so much effect on mortality, but especially the posterior ones. And here you see the differences between the breed. In this trait, we found that teeth length didn't matter that much. Teeth diameter was not affecting as much the nursing success and survival either. But there's an effect of parity. And we also found the threshold, teeth per distance, of more than 16 centimeter. And that was a threshold for the piglets to be able to use it. Then I mean the distance between upper and lower is between the pairs. We didn't think about the whole, we measured actually distance between every pair of teeth. Lot of work. Yeah. We also did a little bit similar results with Guru, but not so detailed. Because it has to be very detailed if the breeding company is. This is the pen that we use for all our experiments. This is the farrowing pen. We have statted floor in the end of the pen, and then we have solid concrete floor. We have a quite large piglet area. These pens are quite bigger than what is common in the commercial herds. This was from the experimental farm. Now these pens have been replaced by my pen. I designed a new farrowing pen. I have built this pen in university now. Okay, so back to that. On teeth, 22% of functional producing milk teeth were not used on day 1, which is very crucial because that's where most piglets die, actually, day 1 and 2. So it's for sure a problem. The other morphology is a problem on our sows. And you see here that it's the lower row, 49% was not used, and the middle teeth and the posterior teeth, much bigger problem than this. So the breeding company was really interested in this. And they will now start measuring teeth in a different way but what we're thinking, because it's also difficult, so time consuming to do it, we use this manual measure. And the sow was fancy. And I now think we will develop some video picture analysis of this to make it easier for them to measure. Okay. The next study that he has done, Marco, together with me, is to look at maternal investment in sows. And then you know that expenditure of resources provided to the litter at each reproductive cycle is always with a cost for the mother regarding future reproduction. So the more the mother invests in the present litter, the less residual reproductive effort she has left. It's just biology. It's simple biology, simple calculation. And what I think, and what I've discussed a lot with the breeding company, is that we focused so much on the sows to produce high litters early in life. And that is a period when they still need resources for their own weight development. That we get a very sharp drop and very negative behavior already after parity 3. Because they invest so much in the early litters, so they will invest much less later on, instead of having a more steady curve. So the cost of investing in the litter is not just through nursing. Especially in loose housing sows, we see that they spend a lot of time and energy on guarding and interacting with the offspring. So that's also something we have to spend energy on. So in this paper, it's also published in Journal of Animal Science now. We asked, can a super sow be a robust sow? So we looked at consequences of litter investment in purebred and crossbred sows against. We always have these 3 breeds because I wanted to compare landrace is the most efficient one. And then we have Duroc as a father breed, and the breeding company is not interested in that. But the reason why I want to look at that is because it's never been subjected to any selection from litter size or maternal traits. So I wanted to, that was the closest I could get to wild boar crossings. And they actually look like wild boars, and they behave more like wild boars because they were almost impossible to measure teeth. They were so aggressive and so reactive. So we had really problems with measuring things on them. Here we look at what is the cost of being a high productive sow that gives birth to large litters at a young age. And how do we calculate sow investment? It's not easy, but what we have done is we call sow investment is a kilogram wean piglets plus the dead ones, because the sow invests already from the time when the egg is fertilized. She starts investing in the offspring, and even if they die, she's already investing a lot in them. Many of the piglets are big when they are born, and that's also something I forgot to mention, that 10 years ago, the piglets that were crushed were usually the ones that did not get milk, the ones that have that were starving, and crushing was very linked together. But now it's not linked together anymore. Now it's just as many of the big healthy piglets that get crushed. So this has changed because they have selected for weight of the piglets. They selected for litter size. So now you can have 18 really big piglets. So, and they need food, so they are soliciting the mother all the time. So the likelihood that they get crushed is just as high. So if you now know you know that total litter investment is a kilogram wean piglets plus kilogram dead ones. We saw that the more the sow invests in the piglet, the higher is the body condition losses. We looked at body condition score. And the more the sow invests in the litter, the higher is the likelihood that they get shoulder lesions. We don't have much problems with lameness in Norway. Lameness in Norway, but we have a lot of problems with shoulder lesions. Because especially in landrace sows, because they invest so much in litter, and it's no longer the farmers have problems with compensating for the high weight loss at the first party. The weaning age is they cannot be weaned before 28 days. That's the rule. Yeah. It's like people that lie on hospital for too long in the hospital beds. They get wounds. They lose weight, and they are big and they have heavy skeleton, but they are skinny. There's no fat outside the shoulders, so they get easily shoulder lesions. And it's difficult to compensate, to give them enough food, especially in the landrace. I will show that. Here you see that the landrace is the one who invests the most, and then the next is the crossbred sows that is in the commercial farms, and one that invests the last, that have lowest litter size, of course, because they have not been bred for that. They have the lowest litter investment. And you also see here the problem is that the landrace is also the one who eat the less. They are not able to compensate for this high litter production and high milk production. So it's a major problem. They are a little bit better, but here's the biggest problem. And we also saw that the landrace, who is investing most in the litter, they have the highest body condition losses. They have the higher lesion scores. So there we have the problems. And it's substantially worse for the first priority sows. First and second priority sows are losing the most weight. And it can really get bad. These shoulder lesions can be so bad. And some farmers have to cull the sows because of this. So it's very important that they are fed well during pregnancy. So the ones that are thin or less than normal in body condition, we have 1 to 3, I think, or no, 1 to 5 scores there. The ones that are 3 normal, they are fine. They have very little of this, but the ones that are less than 3, it's likely to get it. And that I try to tell the farmer to make sure that the sows, when they leave the pregnancy unit, they have a normal body condition score. And actually they could be more than that because they lose so much weight. Yeah. The next we have done is also published and applied now. We looked at the consequence of increased litter size in the 3 different sow breeds. The breeding company is so fed up with that, but because I always talk about it, because I think it's too much weight on litter size and too little weight on other traits. So we have such a good sow material in Norway. It's very, very healthy sows, very little problems with leg, very little leg problems. And they are really, really good mothers. But these huge litter sizes destroy things. So I want to reduce the weight on that. But yeah, we'll see. And here we see that if you look at all the traits that we measured, or all the variables that we measured, large litter size affects all variables negatively irrespective of breed. So it's a general phenomena that if you give them a large litter and invest a lot in that litter, then it will have negative effects. They pre-massage less, they post-massage less. This is affecting the next milk letdown, and it's affecting the milk production of the sow. We have fewer successful nursings when the litter size increases. We have longer nursing intervals because the sow gets fed up with the litter earlier. Proportion of piglets not receiving milk is increasing. Yeah, in the publication I did in 2011, I said I kind of calculated the optimal litter size for which was the biological capacity of the sow, because I then had an arrangement with the farmer, and I said to him, okay, I pay you this amount of money. You're not allowed to do any extra routines when the sows are pairing, because I wanted to see which capacity the sow has without any help of the farmer. And he was not allowed to do cross fostering either. So we lost a lot of piglets, but I wanted to see what was the biological capacity of the sows at present. And what I found was that already at a litter size of 12, there was on average 1 piglet per litter that did not receive milk during milk letdown on average. And the capacity of the sow was between 10 and 11. Between 10 and 11 piglets. So that means I also tell that to the farmer, if you want to have more piglets, it's up to your effort. Everything above 12 is the farmer's effort. That's what I say. But now I think this limit has changed a little bit, because of course sows differ also. Some sows can have 14 piglets and wean 14, even 16 and wean 16. But when I say 12, I'm talking about the average. And that's why I say that also for the farmer, it's better for him to have 12 live born and 12 wean instead of have 18 and 12 wean, because all the rest is more work for him. You would have to split suckle, cross foster. If they die, he has to carry them out to the garbage, and it's not very. So the farmer actually wants lower litter sizes in Norway. But when they calculate this from the computer, they see slight increase in the number of wean. They don't think about maybe it's 1 or half piglet extra, but they don't see the cost that lies behind it for the farmer, which is important, because the farmer has to pay more attention, has to do more management, and they are so frustrated when they cannot feed the sows enough. They lose body condition. I remember last time I was with the farmer, one farmer, he said, look at this sow, she's such a good mother, but she lost so much weight, had so severe shoulder lesion, he had to cull her. So he was so frustrated, and he couldn't do anything with it. I mean, we have to make genetic material that works out in the farm, and that reduces the demand for management. Because most farmers, they would like to, at least what I experience in our farmers, they are quite proud of their work, and they really care about their animals. Yeah. Yeah. They are actually really good. Most of the farmers are really competent, I would say, and they are quite flexible in the way they have actually changed from crates to loose housing, and the way they gain more knowledge about this system. Yeah, I don't think I have to elaborate so much on this. It's just the same things. Again. Okay, another study where we look. Now we're getting more to the point. Where we actually looked at the maternal behavioral traits that affect piglet mortality. And then we have done first with these experimental sows, 38 or 30, I don't remember how many we had now. But and then when we did all these experiments first with these 3 breeds and found really interesting results, people have criticized me for using so small samples, but we couldn't do this in 900 sows. We couldn't possibly measure all the teats, do all the very, very detailed behavioral studies on more than that. So the aim was always to experiments on a smaller samples of sow, and then take it out in the commercial herd. So this is first from the experiment. This is from the from the herds. Yeah. So the goal was to develop qualitative scores from continuous measures. First we did in the experiment, we did all sorts of continuous measures, and we transferred it into scores. And what we saw was that, for instance, nest building score and the nest building continuous measures from videos was really highly correlated. We also made a communication score of the sow, to what extent she communicated with the piglets when she was active 2 days after birth. And we also looked at, we made a carefulness score to see how she actually was moving around the piglets, if she was careful and looking after them. And the correlation between the continuous measures and the scores on the carefulness and communication was between 0.6 and 0.8. So that means that the scores are quite good. So these were the behavioral traits that we were looking at, both in the experiment and in the 900 sows in the commercial herd. Yeah, this is when we scored. We did 2 days after birth, because the first day after birth, the sows are not so conscious about what they do. They can, by coincidence, they can crush the piglet, but then on day 2 they are more. Then the lactation has started more systematically, and it's better to do the scoring, and they are up and active, and it's very important. Yeah, the scores and the continuous measures were highly correlated. I don't have time to go through all the details. We tested a lot of different models to see which kind of models were the most fitted. And we ended up with a model in the end. We have 7 models, I think, we tried. We used this Aki adjustment, or this kind of test, to find the best fitted model. So we ended up with the nest building was not very significant regarding mortality and starvation and crushing. Nest building was not so significant. It is here. It is actually here, but in the commercial herds, we didn't get that much out of it, which I expected. In the commercial herds, we found that the communication score and carefulness score highly affected the mortality or survival. Really, really high impact. And we also found on the continuous measures that a lot of sow communication, sow-initiated communication during resting, is not a good sign. This increases piglet mortality, whereas communication during activity is the total opposite. So when the sow is active, it's good if she communicates with the piglet. If she's resting, she shouldn't do so much about that, because the communication she has when resting is usually because she's frustrated about something. Because except for except for nursing, she should not communicate so much when she is resting. But of course, during nursing, they communicate a lot. But we did all measures of nursing, and I think that's important. So more. Okay, so I jump into some PhD work again. She looked at nest building. We tested sows. We gave them different type of nest building materials. This is a totally different experiment again. We compared sawdust with peat and straw. In Norway, sawdust is not accepted as nest building material. It's in the law, the regulation, that it has to be straw or a suited material. But still, some farmers, they claim that it's enough to have sawdust, and it's easier for the manure system. because the farmers are so concerned about the manure system. We wanted to try how peat, peat in Brazil, Portuguese, I don't know. You don't have, it's kind of soil, mix of soil. Yeah. This is extremely good for rooting and stimulates the piglets. I tried it on weaned pigs and fattening pigs, and they get all crazy about it. It initiates play behavior really a lot. And it was the same in sows, that it didn't actually work so well with nest building. As you see here, it's not such a big difference, but there were more nest building with straw. They had a little bit more nest building elements. Locomotion was the same, but there were more stereotypies actually in the sawdust and the feed treatment than in the straw. And when we looked at the mortality, we also looked at production of these sows, and we found that there were more stillborn in this treatment than in this one. So the straw treatment produced fewer stillborn piglets. This is not published yet, but we're working on the paper now. So what I would say, if I look through all my papers and work on pig sows and piglet survival, I would say that management effect of the farmer is huge, really, really huge. If you have a good farmer, he can make any system work. I've seen farmers that have very, very tiny pens, almost without a heat source, but because they are there so much and they are doing the right routines, then they still produce well. So unfortunately, the pen or the physical environment means less. And we tried to, in the 52 hertz, we measured everything. We measured the size of the pen, length times width, we measured the size of the creep areas, quality of the creep areas, everything. Proportional slatted doors, these things. But having said that, our pens in the commercial herd do not vary that much. We have more similar sized pens, and they all look more or less the same. So I would say that, but I still have to say that this is just the basis for the production. It's the sow material, the way we stimulate the sow to behave well, and also the traits or the genetic material that we're working with. But it's again the management of the farmer. And the larger the litter size, the more the farmer has to work, which is not good, because the farmers say that they think it's enough already. So this is financed by the Research Council, and a lot of farm organizations also contributed. The farmers' organization are very proactive in Norway. It's much easier to get grant on production species than on, for instance, horses. I will just say a little bit about pen that we have developed. But now I just need to increase the size. I wanted to make it a little bit quicker so we can zoom it. I designed the farrowing pen. I promised myself never to do that, because I know that there's... So you see, you can focus on this to the left now. I call it the sow comfort pen, because I wanted to focus. You can see there because I did. I wanted to make a pen that had these functional areas. I didn't in the prototype pen. I didn't, which I made together with Guru. I didn't want to think about the size of the pen. Well, then we had a pen 9 square meter. I just wanted to see where I should place the functional parts of the pen first, and then we can reduce the size. I knew I had to reduce it, but so it's now some years ago that we started this work. And the pilot pen was tested in our university firm. And I also went to Australia and tested it on 28 sows with Greg Cronin in Sydney. And it went really well. The farmer there, he was so scared he couldn't sleep the last 3 nights before we started the experiment because he never experienced other than created sows. And it was so nice to see the gilts. They did so well in the pen. They had like 10%, 12% mortality. So that's very, very, very nice result. The older sows had more problems because they were not adjusted to the system, so they were more clumsy. We also got some aggressive sows among the young ones because they were scared of the piglets, and I almost never see this in Norway. So it was interesting for me to see. But all the sows, they built a nest. They were so motivated, and the farmer was really thrilled. He was really, really happy to see how the sows actually change temperament, and it's different to work with pigs when they are loose than when they are created. All of a sudden, they have personalities, and he get a relationship to them. So I have a very nice relationship to this farmer. I like him a lot. He was so scared, but he ended up becoming really, really positive. If you can just drag it up, I will try to explain a little bit. Yeah, you can see here is a slatted floor colored green. And I wanted to make a nest area for the sow. And that I wanted the activity area to be very open so that she could interact with neighboring sows. The reason why I put the feed dispenser in the corner is because I wanted her to defecate in the slatted floor area and not do something else. I had one test farm, because we tested this in commercial farms, 2 commercial farms afterwards. He insisted that he wanted to have a long trough in the short end of the in the end of the activity area, and that didn't work at all. The sow defecated in the trough, and it was just chaotic. So this pen only works if you have a feed dispenser in the corner. The sow is in the nest area, have a rubber mat, 3 centimeter thick, and underneath that we have some. It's the shape of it allows some air underneath. So I have floor heating, and I have floor heating on the wall behind the sow there, and also in one of the walls where I wanted the piglets to be. So there's no creep area in this. The sow has a nest, and she's with the piglets all the time. And I got all these sorts of criticism or prejudice from many, many people, veterinarians. They came to the university, they said, you must be crazy, this is not going to work. And it has worked so well. So now it's also good for the farmers not to have another benefit with not having creep area is the heat lamp, because they are a source of fire problems in piglet units. But I could run this heat in the floor, because when the sow is about to farrow, she wants to have high temperature. So then I put both zones of heat on for the first 24 hours, or maybe 2, depends a little bit on the sow. And then when she started the milk production, she wants the temperature to go down. Otherwise, she doesn't use the creep area or the nest area. So then I turned off the heat source in with the wall where she was supposed to lie against the sloped walls. I also put there to protect the piglets because they could go and they could go. Can you make it a little bit bigger, maybe? No, the other one. Yeah, here you see the red color is from the heat source. If you just increase the size a little bit. Yeah. You don't see it that well, but we can look at the picture afterwards. If we go to the, maybe we go to the results then. Yeah. We had we have 150 sows, 160 sows in each herd. I tested it in 2 herds. And here you see in one of the herd, I've followed 7 batches of farrowings. We had 52 sows farrowing every batch, every 8 weeks. So it was easy to me to get the data. And here you see a very steady development from 15.4 mortality, which is more or less the average in Norway, towards less than 12% in the last batch. And that is the reason why I follow the 7 batches, is because I discussed it with Sandra Edwards, and she said that whenever farmers have a new system, it usually takes just for them to kind of stable, because there's always a problem with the ventilation system. If you build a new house, an entire new house, always problems with the ventilation system, with, well, a lot of things that has to be stable before you get good results. But if you go up there and figure to the right, you also see that mortality is, when I compared it with the traditional pen in the first farm, we saw that the mortality is significantly lower in the sow comfort pen than in the traditional pen. But there are still more piglets crushed in the system, but there are fewer starved piglets. And I think it has to do with a better communication with the piglets. I can just go back to the original one. Yeah, and maybe I would like yeah, this is from the farm. And up, yeah, you were there. Sorry. Yeah. As you see here, there's a hay rack. All the sows had plastic straw from a hay rack. And I also had to design this because these are not made for pigs. They are made for cattle. So I had to contact some agency to make this for me. And first we had 10 centimeters between these bars. But that was too much. Too much. I wanted them to work more for it. So these were 8 centimeters between, and then have so much waste. And I also had a solid bottom here so that it didn't get good. And all the sows had free access to this. It should always be filled up 24-hour fruition. If farmers are good, they can see on the sows when they. But if farmers are not good to see this, then they have to do it 24 hours before. But of course, you can check if the sow has the milk in the teat, maybe hours before birth or something. But most farmers need some rules of thumbs. At least the average farmer does. This is the daughter of the farmer. She's taken over. She was my master student as well. Yes, PhD project, so she was very, very enthusiastic about it, of course. And, yeah, if you scroll down here, you can see the original pen. Here's a new pen, how it looks like from above, and this is the traditional one. It's a little bit bigger. And also Greg Cronin has found quite interesting results in Australia. I don't know why people don't have forgotten about them. But he found very clear results on the width of the pen. If you have a width of 1.7, it's too narrow for the nursing and the piglet. That's why I chose 2.4. I would never have less than 2.4 width of the pen. The depth of the pen is not so crucial. It's the width of the pen that is most crucial. And yeah, this pen is 7.7 square meters. Many would say that it's quite large. But I would say that it's necessary for the sow to do the functional behaviors. And if I was to increase something here, I wouldn't increase the width or the depth of the nest area. I would increase the slatted floor area, because it's so important that the sow have enough space for doing that. Okay, so people are getting tired. I'm getting more and more awake. No, then yeah, then we can just continue. I just wanted to show you a panorama view of the farm, the test farm. This is how it looks like. I'm standing there with the farmer. It's a quite nice farm. He has 52 sows per batch, and every 8 weeks he has new farming. This is a satellite herd, so he receives the sows from some common knob or sow pool. But these walls are made of glass fiber from windmills, actually. So it's recycled material, and it's really hard and very easy to clean and robust. Very, very robust. Oh, knee lesions. I just want to show you that the comfort pen resulted in fewer knee lesions in the piglets. You have problems with that? Nursing, and you get that's quite important because you can get infections through those wounds. So here, almost 30% of the piglets per litter did not have any lesions in the new pen, whereas in the traditional pen with concrete floor, there was only 10% that did not have any lesions, which is also quite important. Yeah, I think. Yeah, and also cell communication, when we measured that, initially by the sow was better in the new pen than in the old pen. So I was going to talk about the new project, but I think people are tired now. You want? You sure? Yeah, Marco, my PhD. Yeah. But I don't have much on that. I just because I just wanted to tell about the hypothesis that we have regarding positive emotional and environmental enrichment. But we can. No, we're not doing it tomorrow. I'm staying with Marsha. I'm not going to do any work tomorrow. So either you have it now or never. Oh. 3 minutes. I have. Yeah. Tomorrow I'm Marsha's friend. Not tomorrow, but yeah. We have a new project. My Marco, my PhD student, has now got a new project on. It's about positive emotional and environmental enrichment in pigs. And my thoughts there is that we have hypothesis that behavioral indicators of positive emotions. Now I should have given you an introduction about positive emotions, but we don't have time for that. But the basic philosophy is that if we fulfill the most important behavioral needs of the animals, no matter what species we are talking about, basic behavioral inelastic needs of the animals, then that's the way to induce positive emotions. And we measure it by measuring behavior, physiological indicators, and brain measures as well. But this is focused on behavior mostly. We hypothesize that behavioral indicators of positive emotion can be induced by satisfying basic behavioral needs in pigs. The need to explore and root in a social setting and in combination with a learning task is what we're going to do here. We also hypothesize that positive stimulation will reduce fear and frustration, enhance learning capacity, and physical health status. We're going to have a veterinary diagnosis of the pigs and to look at diarrhea and all these things, just regular physical health characteristics, not anything very fancy. But we're going to follow their physical health after weaning. Finally, we hypothesize that the practical device where the pigs has to work for rooting substrate will enhance the expression of positive behavioral indicators, because previous literature have shown that, for instance, sows, if they are forced to work for a resource, work for straw, then they get a bigger satisfaction. It's like when we have an exam and have worked really hard for it and we get a good result, that is more rewarding if we work hard for it than if we just, by coincidence, we got a good result because I was lucky to read about the right things. It's the same with animals. The more they have to work for something, the more pleasure they get out of it. And in pigs, it's predicted that variety and strength of behavioral expressions will depend on the type of rooting stimulus used. So in this experiment, we use different type of rooting stimulus. The combination of a learning task with the most preferred rooting stimulus as reward, when successful, will enhance the strength of these behavioral responses even further compared to a situation where the pigs do not have to perform a learning task to get access. And I made a prototype of a peat dispenser already from a different project. And I'm thinking, we don't know whether it's going to be peat or straw that's the most successful one now, but we want to make a practical device in case we have good results. We want to make a practical device for the farmer that can go with the pens, where the pigs actually can manually work to get the substrate out without the farmer having to do anything. Well, it depends on the results. But I still have the prototype of the dispenser. I've made a drawing of it, but I haven't built it yet. But yeah. And repeated positive stimulation of young pigs to initiate play and exploratory behavior over a longer time period will increase the number of positive social interactions. This is other studies showing that positive emotions, it will affect the social behavior. Reduce the level of fear, so we're going to do fear test and enhance the success rate in the spatial learning task compared to control animals receiving no stimulation. So it's a very theoretical and experimental setup, but it will end up in a practical device that will be produced for the pharmacy if it's successful. That's why we got the money also, I think, because we managed to focus on theory, and it ends up with something practical that the farmers can apply. Okay, thank you. Problem is that we have so many things going on, we have so it's difficult to go through every detail on everything. But if you're interested in something special, I can send you per email or. Yeah. Yeah. I've been thinking maybe that my postdoc can also come here and work with you on that. if you have something else than the slatted floor system on the wind pigs. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have wonderful facilities there. I really like it. Really good. Thank you for having me, and it was really a nice week for me. So. Well, I have not let, because I'm collaborating with the company. And I said, you're not allowed to sell anything before I have all the results on these 2 test farms. I have all the results now, so they can start selling it. So the only thing that was allowed was to have it in the university, but now they can go out for sale any place. So there has been some interest, but I think in Norway we have so many alternative pens that works already. And this one is a little bit more expensive than the traditional ones because you need the. I also made a fence or a door so that you can separate the mother from the offspring when you castrate and these things. It costs a lot. And also the rubber floor costs a little bit. You don't necessarily have to have the rubber flooring. But, for instance, if I was to plant this pen here, it would probably be too hot to have this rubber floor. But in Australia, it was also hot, or it was not so hot because I was there on the winter time. So it was between 15 and 20 degrees in air temperature, and we still had the rubber mats, so we had the same rubber mats. So I think it's a good system, but there are also other pens that work really well. And here, I mean, I would plan outdoor system because you have such a good climate, and it's very cheap to have this system. If you have a lot of land like you have, and it seems like you have a good soil too, so that don't destroy that much. And in the UK, Emma Baxter has succeeded in making this system with 10% mortality actually. So I think it would work really well here. So there's no use to have extremely expensive systems, but I mean it depends on what we decide. We can also maybe put up some of these pens and compare with outdoors house. It depends on if we get a project, we could do that here maybe. Because Kopik Norsvin, they are trying to get into the Brazilian market, so they should be interested in testing out how Norwegian sows work here actually. So I will talk to them when I get back because we could very easily put. I'm collaborating with this company anyway, so we could very easily put up like 6 pens or something and compare it with like doing it on a small scale. Yeah. Yeah. It's all fine. I'm not afraid of competition. I like competition. Stop. Yeah. 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 What the first experiment we're going to do is to really boost them with this with peat, straw, and sawdust. That's a different thing. And then we're going to record all behaviors that occur: play behavior, exploration, tail wagging, grunting, because there are all sorts of vocalization. Yeah, everything. Sound, posture, ear movements, tail movements, everything. Because I want to have all sorts of measures possible. And then when we found what kind of behavioral measures that worked, then we go on to the more complex things. Start with the easy approach and then add this learning experiment, or this they have to work for to get access, and then elaborate on that. That's the way I use it. We will video record and record sounds. Thank you. Obrigada. I have to learn Portuguese. I can only a few words. So, he wants to build pens now.